strategist in the city of Helsingborg, Sweden. And yes, I'm going to talk about the voluntary local review process that we made last year, we started 2020, December 2020 with this process. Yes, you can just put it on show. Thank you.
Let's see.
Click. Yeah, you can click. This is a nice view of Helsingborg city. You can click. Yes, I'm just going to give you a quick summary of how to zoom in you on what is the preconditions for this, the voluntary local review, and how do we work in Helsingborg city. Well, the setup is that we have 8 departments and 8 political committees and the municipal assembly, of course, and we have a total amount of we have a lot of questions and missions in the city to handle, like health and social care, labor market department, and school and recreation and culture, and yeah, etc. So this just gives you the range of questions that we handle each day. Click forward, please. And we also have 5 municipal-owned companies in the city. The Port of Helsingborg, which is the 2nd largest in Sweden. A housing company, Helsingborgshem, which provides social housing, etc. Waste collection company, and water and sewage company. And also the energy company. So this gives you a picture of how it gives a setup for us to easily collaborate in the sustainable development sector. You can click, please. So why we made a VLR? Well, this was the first step in our revising our program for the Sustainable Development Goals, the Quality of Life program that we had started. So this was the first step in checking out how a follow-up on our plan, so that we had a good starting point in the new plan. And we also were in the process of following up our plan for equal opportunities, which is human rights issues. So that was also good timing for us. And this gave us a good overview of the current situation. And also on what we already do. And this also led up to that we could find our biggest challenges. And this is the tool for localizing the Sustainable Development Goals, that we need to find our biggest challenges because they're not the same here as in other cities. So we learned how the agenda also relates to Helsingborg and vice versa, and what is important for us, and also how we can affect other cities and countries' opportunities to reach the SDGs goals. You can click. So this is just a plan for how our governance process works. So we have a policy-making process. We understand the current situation and trends and local challenges, and formulate goals for this. And then we implement the policy on the department level. And then we follow up measures and action plans, and also follow up the development in the society. And then we needed to update the policy. So this goes around and round. And when we started the VLR process, we were at the red arrow point. So we were at the follow-up sector. You can click. So the content of our VLR is that we describe the governance and collaboration of sustainable development occurring in Helsingborg, and also the process and method of this VLR process. And also that we have a leave no one behind principle and focus through the whole report. And for each goal, we explain what we do and some of our recent work, and also the pandemic impact. You can click. Well, we looked at how we made the VLR process is how we looked at all the indicators and tried to analyze what does this mean for this goal. And we used our experts, local experts, working in the different departments of the city to try to explain why does it work like this and why is it the data showing this. And also with the plan for equal opportunities follow-up, we engaged the NGOs and using the sense-making tool is a questionnaire that you which builds on dialogues and that extracts what is the headlines of the data of this story that this person is telling us, and what do we need to listen to through this. So these are all the things that went into the VLR report. And also we had, of course, a political anchoring. We have a board for the quality of life program that follows this that followed this VLR process, and also took part in the content of the report. You can click. Yes, the indicators of the SDGs. We saw some difficulties in analyzing the development of the goals. You can click, please. And the common misconceptions when we compare it to others. This is just a picture from the Collada that collects data from Swedish authorities and put it in one website. And they divide the goals and the indicators like green, yellow, and red, and they compare it to other cities. So if you're green, you're the 25% better municipalities. But this doesn't show you, when you see this, the top green indicator is actually the amount of carbon dioxide that we emit. And it shows green, but it should be red. We're at the top 25% best municipalities, but we're not there by far. You can click. So we also saw that we're missing information. So we can't draw the whole picture. Please click. So this goal number 14, life below water, they had no indicators at all for the municipality level. You can click, please. So we put in our own data, and we have the following the status of the sea biodiversity since 1996. So we know what to measure, and this is the number of species and biomass, heavy metals and PCB occurrence in the sediment, and protect the sea area of the total area. Then we have 2 marine nature reserves in Helsingborg. You can please click. So some practical tips, please click. We need to dig deeper to find a detailed data to note the differences within the city, because we know for a fact that if you look at the average, you can't show the inequalities within the cities. Please click. So use also other resources for your data. For instance, national and regional services that are provided by national agencies like the Public Health Agency, and your own data. You can please click. And you also need some local knowledge to understand the statistical data. So if you zoom in on this map of Helsingborg, you need to know why are the differences between these different parts of the city. So you need geographical information system, comes really at handy when working with these analyses. Please click. So the outcome for us with the VLR process was a much more updated quality of life program. That is our sustainable development program. And this was decided by the City Council of Helsingborg in December 2021. So it's quite fresh. And we also understood that we need to work more deeply into how to analyze the indicators. So we have a project with RISE, that is the Swedish Institute of Research, how to better understand quality of life and how to measure the preconditions for quality of life in the city. And we also learned how to connect the why of why do we work with quality of life and how is it connected to sustainable development and the agenda. This also led, of course, that we have more friends with the other Swedish cities in the VLR process, and also the national level. And we have also more knowledge today on how to work with these issues. Please click. So this is what come out of the VLR process for us. We understood this connection better. We could say now that our aim and purpose of the sustainable development is quality of life for all people and a viable society for now and also for the future. So this is the summary, you can say, of our quality of life program. You can click. Yeah, you can click. Yeah, so this is also the links to the quality of life program on the bottom and the voluntary local review of Helsingborg. Thank you. And also you can contact me if you have any questions on this email address. Thank you.
Allow me to say good afternoon or good morning to all members in this room. My name is Dorothy Mavolani from City of Harare. I'm the acting head monitoring the evaluation, and I'll be presenting on the experiences in terms of the voluntary local review that went through HCT. Harare was chosen to be a pioneer for the voluntary local review for the Republic of Zimbabwe, together with Victoria Falls, which is another city in Zimbabwe. So basically this presentation will just give us an overview of the voluntary local review process in terms of the implementation of the sustainable development goals. I'd want to highlight that most of the functions of the local authorities in Zimbabwe cut across most of the sustainable development goals. If you look at poverty eradication and issues of hunger, if you look at climate change mitigation and adaptation, reduction of inequalities, issues of water and sanitation, issues of transport, issues of sustainable waste management. Most of these functions of the local authorities cut across the SDGs. I'll share with you some of the core functions of the City of Harare, and then you'll be able to link them with the Sustainable Development Goals. So we are mandated by the Urban Council State, Chapter 2916, to provide potable water and also manage wastewater. So you see that the SDG that is related to issues of water and sanitation, we also cover it in that particular function. Issues of trafficable roads, you look at the SDG related to sustainable cities and issues of infrastructure. Effective solid waste management system is related to issues of sanitation and issues of the environment. Accommodation, that housing, then provide comprehensive and accessible health services, also critical, particularly on the SDG that's related to health and well-being. And then all the others that are listed, they are obviously shared the presentation. It's unfortunate I didn't have an opportunity to share with you beforehand, but obviously all these cities core functions that are listed, they contribute to the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals. So We participated as a city, as I said earlier on. We were chosen as one of the cities in Zimbabwe, together with Victoria Falls, to participate in the voluntary local review. The idea was to assess the progress towards the implementation of the SDGs and also to identify the gaps which must then be covered so that we are able to achieve the SDGs by 2030. So this assessment was conducted through a trend analysis and also key stakeholder interviews, where our consultant was funded by the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa. UNECA did the trend analysis and also key stakeholder interviews for the various stakeholders that work with the city. It was also important that we participate in the voluntary local review because it was imperative that we review the city's development policy framework to assess its effectiveness in terms of contributing towards the attainment of the SDGs. Issues of strengthening of the governance, policy, and institutional framework underpinning the implementation of SDGs in the city was also important. It was also important to participate in the VLR so that we can provide the evidence on local or global best practices in terms of the implementation of the SDGs. We also needed to establish the level of knowledge and awareness of SDGs in the city, and this was done through a perception survey that was done by our consultant. The review was also done to proffer policy suggestions to close the gaps that were identified and also to come up with strategies to deal with the emerging challenges. It was also important that we conduct the VLR to help mobilize strategic action towards the attainment of the SDGs. So the how part, how was it done? We had support from UNECA. We engaged an independent consultant to do the consultations with the key stakeholders, which included the government of the Republic of Zimbabwe. We have resident associations that work within the city. We also have various development partners that cooperate with the city. We have CSOs with the private sector, the residents, persons living with disabilities, the young people and women. This was done because of trying to achieve the concept of leaving no one behind. Let me also point out that we have various documents for the city. We have the strategic plans, we have the budget, we also have the performance review reports, we have the service level benchmarking reports from previous years. All these documents were reviewed in order to assess the progress made or whether as a city we're institutionalizing the implementation of the SDGs. So the review process was basically undertaken between the period January 2020 to June 2020, and various meetings were held in between, like at the beginning, an inception meeting was done, and then at the end, the validation meetings were also held with the key stakeholders. And even the political arm of council, which are the councillors, were also consulted in the process. So this process allowed us to take stock of the progress we had made in terms of the implementation of Agenda 2030. It also came up with recommendations to ensure the attainment of SDGs in Harare, and it also provided us with an opportunity to network and learn from others. I'll share with you the report from the voluntary local review that was then shared by our consultant. I'll also email it. So some of the benefits were that we're able to identify gaps in terms of implementation. We're also able to identify the key priority areas that as a city we needed to work on. And then we're also able then to say, after identifying the key priority areas, issues of funding for the implementation of projects and programs in those key priority areas. And then how do we then bring in partners to work with us as part of the implementation of number 17. The VLR also helped us to institutionalize SDGs in our planning, in terms of strategic planning, and also in terms of budgeting and the implementation of the various projects and programs within the city. So those were some of the gaps that were identified. Issues of data, which is very critical. So the lack of good data made it very impossible, or it was a challenge for the city to design appropriate and specific policies. So issues of data is very critical in the VLR process, because lack of data then makes it difficult for us to be able to measure performance. Sometimes if you don't have the baseline, it's then difficult to measure achievement in terms of where we were and where we are. So that is the key issue. And then funding challenges, obviously, because of the COVID-19 pandemic, we had serious challenges wherein our income is very low, but the expenditure is very high because of the COVID-19 pandemic. We're then expected as a local authority to also deal with the prevention and management of COVID-19. But then it became difficult because the resources were really not available. Then also inadequate resources to fund the projects and programs to support the implementation of the SDGs. And also, I think you're aware that here we have rising incidents of informality, both in terms of housing and even in terms of economic activities. So it then makes it very difficult for us to mobilize resources to finance sustainable development within the city. The other key guiding question related to whether the process led to changes in strategies or plans. So that slide that I'm sharing with you is an extract of the performance contract of the Director of Housing and Community Services. The second column relates to the key result area for the city. And then the second from last shows the SDG reference, where we are saying provision of sound local government and administration is a city. We reference it to those public health service delivery within reference to that. It is important because we are now institutionalizing the implementation of the SDGs. The directors are then measured against the implementation of the SDGs that reside in their department. So it has helped us in that respect. I would also want to share with you the key tips. That is, when we are implementing SDGs, it's very important to ensure that the process is inclusive, consultative, so that you don't leave anyone behind. And then greater collaboration between the cities and statistical agencies. We have ZIMSTAS here in Zimbabwe to address the serious data gaps and also strengthen local data collection. I think as cities, it's also important to have the vital statistics, which are critical for planning purposes. So those are some of the key tips that I can share with you. And also issues of raising awareness around SDGs is very critical because you then get to empower the local communities to buy in and also participate in the implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals. The last slide that I'm sharing with you, I borrowed it from the internet, it then summarizes what is important for us to be able to make the voluntary local review a truly effective tool and a very good process in terms of checking where we are in terms of implementation of the SDGs. Issues of indicators, sometimes if the indicators are vague, it's very difficult to then get the data to measure the performance. It's important that we ensure participation of local actors, and then we need to ensure that the policies that we have at the local level or as a local authority, they should be in coherence with the Sustainable Development Goals. And as we do our strategic planning and management, we also need to ensure that as we plan whatever projects or programs that we implement as a city, they should be linked or they should be aligned to the implementation of Sustainable Development Goals. I think that is all that I have to share with you. Thank you. And the other two are in our vernacular languages. Thank you.